So there you heard Jessica saying that for how long can we edge on a full-scale war in West Asia? Well, we'll take that further with Major General Sudhakar G. He is a strategic and defense expert. General, such a pleasure to have you on DD India. 1 year since the Hamas attack on Israel triggered an armed conflict in West Asia, tensions threatening to escalate in the region with no end in sight.
Yeah, Munmun, good evening. Thank you for getting me to your show. I must compliment Doordarshan and you in particular for excelling, giving an outstanding presentation in the show itself. And I would say all the participants then deserve to be complimented. As regards your question, let me just, if you allow me, dilate the issue into three different roundels. Some issues pertain to the global level, some regional level, and some local level. At the global level, the stakeholders are far and many. Talk about Israel, talk about the USA, talk about France, talk about UK. But the core issue is regional, and the center of the core issue is actually Israel and the Hamas, or if I may extend this particular expression to say Iran. Now, what is it that has happened? In past 1 year, there have been lots of losses of life, but let's not be unmindful of the fact that this is the third turning point in the 21st century. When I say about third turning point, what I mean is the first turning point, as far as I'm concerned, was nothing other than the Russia invading into Ukraine, wherein the geopolitical status of the global order was challenged for the first time in 21st century. It was followed by this particular conflict when everything was going on smoothly. Suddenly on 7th of October, this happens. This happens with a characteristic change or the paradigm shift in the warfare, wherein technology overtakes the normal, standard, conventional threat or the attack by an attacker against the defender. And when I say this, what I mean is that the electromagnetic spectrum was blacked out between 6:30 to 6:50 a.m. on 7th of October 2023. And during this phase, a multi-dimensional attack had taken place, perhaps for the first time, to my understanding and research. Such an attack was undertaken by none other than a non-state actor. It has never been heard of in the military science ever. And that actually became the second turning point. The third turning point, again, was driven by the technology, was basically, I would say, the pager and the ICOM attack, wherein the leadership at different levels of Hezbollah, they were addressed by none other than the Mossad of Israel. So what is it that I'm trying to highlight? I'm trying to highlight that in 21st century, when every common man or citizen of the world is looking towards a kind of a liberal democratic value to prevail, rules-based order to prevail, on the contrary, what we get is actually violence all over. The whole world is polarized. Every country, not seems, is actually militarized, and there is violence at every place, starting from Central Europe to Middle East to Indo-Pacific. So where does it take us to? The center of gravity of the Israel versus Hamas has shifted from Gaza Strip to the north of Israel and south of Lebanon. The offensive is on, ground offensive against the Hezbollah, while the earlier standoff attack used to be between 3 to 6 kilometers by the standoff weapons by Israel across the border into the enemy territory. These days, post 1st of October, the Iran missile attack against Israel, the range of the weapon systems appears to have got extended beyond 6 kilometers to 28 to 30 kilometers, meaning they are striking those objectives deep in the enemy territory of Lebanon. So isn't there an end in sight? The end is going to be in sight, as per my assessment, Munmun, when the whole world exhausts or completes its resources, they are left with nothing. Has that stage come now? Perhaps the turning point is going to be the 5th of November. One timeline was the 7th, where the anniversary is being observed over the world over. Second one is the 5th of November, when the election outcomes will be disclosed or announced in the world. Depending on the leadership While one is aware of the fact that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris both are within the lobby of the Jews and the Yehudis, what decision they will take, whether to carry on with the offensive or to bring a ceasefire, thereafter go in for two-nation theory is a matter of time for the global order to decide. In my take is that the attack against Iran is also not to be ruled out. The attack can take in form of against the oil rigs, against the top leadership, against the military infrastructure. Also, the choke point at Bandar Abbas or the Strait of Hormuz can be put under extreme check by the Iran, wherein the 31% of the oil, gas, and the energy security of the world order is passing Persian Gulf towards outside that particular area. Back to you, Murli.
Right. I think it's been a very comprehensive answer, so we can leave it at that. The way you've characterized the present situation and what you expect in future, you've said that the timeline of the 5th of November will be extremely significant, because that, of course, is voting day or polling day in the US presidential election, and we expect the new president to take office in January next year, and then we would know what the future trajectory could well be, considering the clout that the United States has as a superpower. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, General, for joining us with your views.
Thank you, Murli.